Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Craig Campbell from Pastor Craig's Vintage Cards, and like many people, I'm going to kind of have a little tribute video and commemorate and to memorialize the great Ricky Henderson and his recent passing here before Christmas, and really kind of uh, struck me close to home. And I'll talk more about that as the video goes along. But this year, we've saw three of the giants in baseball: Willie Mays, Pete Rose, and now Ricky Henderson pass away. And really, as I thought about for myself in my life, being born in 1962, coming from a baseball family, a family that we talked baseball, we watched baseball, we listened to it on the radio, we went to ball games. But Willie Mays was coming to the very end of his career when I was able to really remember baseball. I have some memories of the '73 World Series between the Mets and the Oakland Athletics, but I really don't remember Willie Mays when he was with the Giants. I just have no recollection of that. And of course, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, they have much more vivid recollection, especially my brother and my dad and my mother. But they remembered Willie Mays when he played for the San Francisco Giants. Of course, my parents remembered when he was with the New York Giants and how great of a ball player that Willie Mays was. And for me, I remember basically an older player that my dad and my mom and my brother would talk about how great he was. And it was a little bit of a sad situation, when any player goes into decline towards the end of their career. And Willie Mays was definitely in decline, in the '72-'73 season. But still, Willie Mays was probably the greatest, top three or four ball players, certainly top five. And many people have Willie Mays as the greatest baseball player that ever lived. And there really can be no argument about that. And his career spanned from the '50s into the '60s and the '70s. His career was the very beginning of TV, but mainly radio in New York City, where you had the Giants and the Yankees and the Dodgers, out to California. And just he had an amazing career. And Willie Mays passed away, and it was just really, it touched a lot of people. And so for Willie Mays, I just really want to remember him in my card collection. And I don't have a lot of Willie Mays cards, but I'll get the camera turned around here. And you can see for the backdrop, I've intentionally put the book, The Glory of Their Times, because I think of Willie Mays, Pete Rose, and Ricky Henderson, certainly in the glory of their times. And they were great, great ball players. And this is one of my favorite cards that I have. I got this from Billy Ballgame at the National. We made a trade, but Willie Mays, the 1960, just love the '60 design and just really so enjoy that card. And so happy to have that in my collection. And then as well as this is one of my favorite cards, the '72 Topps Willie Mays. Love that design. Love the bat on shoulder. The typical Willie kind of smile, facial expression. Just a great, great card. But again, as I said, for me with Willie Mays, just really don't remember his career all that well. By the time I have firm recollections, he was long retired. But throughout the '70s, he was in a lot of commercials. He was in a lot of, like the variety shows even that they had back then. Willie Mays was in some of those variety shows that would come on TV at night. And so the passing of Willie Mays, certainly the greatest living ball player at the time that he passed away. And but Willie was, in his '90s, and that's what happens when we get to that age. So it was really not a shocking news, but still very sad. Anyways, now the next player, Pete Rose. I love that '83 card, and however you feel about Pete Rose, that's your opinion. I'm not here to change it, but all I can say is that I think that Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I know he cheated on baseball, but as a manager, I know that he gambled when he shouldn't have, and it was a clear-cut violation of the rules, but I still think Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And maybe my opinion is certainly biased and skewed, because for me, Pete Rose was the player of my youth. He was the player of my younger generation growing up. I can remember baseball very clear about 1972, '73, and by that time, the Big Red Machine was forming. And they had already lost the World Series in '70 to Baltimore. And I think they lost to the Oakland A's in '72, and then they eventually won the World Series in '75 and '76 when they were at their premium. That just a great team. But Pete Rose was he was everywhere during the '70s as far as promotion went. He was on posters, and Pete Rose was just synonymous with baseball. Charlie Hustle. The Reds are on TV a lot because they were really, really good. And Pete Rose was just the player that you saw in the All-Star games. You saw him in the playoffs. You saw him in the World Series. Just a great player. And then in 1978, when he was chasing Joe DiMaggio's record, I think he got to 44. And I believe I was I know I was in high school at that time. I might have been a sophomore. But I remember they would come on at night. This is well before cable. And they'd have breaking news when Pete Rose was at bat. And so we were able to watch his run to 44. And then, Pete Rose got traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's pictured here in this Phillies card. Now, the 1980 Phillies, what a great team that was. And Mike Schmidt, third base, and he had Pete Rose at first base. And at the time, there were so many cookie-cutter AstroTurf stadiums. You had the Vet in Philadelphia, Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Riverfront in Cincinnati, Three Rivers in Pittsburgh. I'm probably missing a few, but Pete Rose at first base, whenever he'd make the third out, he'd catch the ball for the third out, and he'd always slam the ball on the AstroTurf by the pitcher's mound. And I always thought that was so interesting because I was watching baseball in Milwaukee on a grass field, and to watch somebody slam the ball into the AstroTurf and it would bounce 20, 30 feet in the air was just kind of amazing. But I always liked Pete Rose, and he was just a great ball player, in my opinion. Yes, was he an accumulator? Yeah, he played a long time. He had a lot of accumulation of stats, but 4,000 plus hits. You can't take that away from him, and I just believe he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But in a way, Pete Rose was the middle guy on this bridge between Willie Mays, Pete Rose passing away, and then Rickey Henderson, and this is my all-time favorite Rickey Henderson card. Just love the 82 Topps with him. That just screams Rickey. And for me, I was so lucky. I went in the Air Force in 1981. Then in 1982, I got stationed in California in March of '82. And we got to go see Rickey Henderson play in '82 and '83, probably close to 100 times with the Oakland A's. We would get tickets at the rec center. I believe it was the rec center on the Air Force Base there. I think it was $2. It may have been $1.50, but $2 for tickets. A friend of mine had a Bonneville car. About 4 of us would ride down to the stadium, and parking was free for military. We had to park way out in the boondocks, but parking was free. And so we would go watch the Oakland A's play for really, maybe $4 or $5 a night. And 19 years old, 20 years old, go to the ball game and just have a blast. And so I got to see Rickey Henderson in '82 and '83 live. I'm going to say close to 100 times. And the thing about Henderson, that unless you saw him play on a regular basis, the pressure that he put on the opponent was tremendous. If he got on first base, the pitcher was so sidetracked by trying to keep Henderson close, or the catcher was calling, pitch outs, and they were throwing fastballs because they didn't want to throw a curveball. They didn't want to throw an off-speed pitch to the batter behind him. And Rickey, just the pressure he put on teams, the middle infielders would have to play in tight for any hope of getting him out at second base, and that would open up holes for the batters behind him. But Henderson just was unbelievable. And then as I look at him in this picture here, look at his thighs. He had big, muscular legs. And a lot of the base stealers from the late 70s that come to mind, the Omar Marinos, Gary Maddox, Bake McBride. I know I'm missing quite a few, but they were very kind of thin. They were a thin, fast player, but Rickey was more of a short, muscular guy, and the power that he generated in those first few steps was just unbelievable. But it wasn't just speed that made Rickey Henderson the greatest base stealer in the world. It was his ability to read the pitcher. He knew when to go. Even as a young man, he just knew when to go. Did he have tremendous speed? Absolutely. But he knew when to steal. He read pitchers so well. And the thing is, like with Henderson, if you walked him, it was almost like giving up a triple because he would steal second, and he would steal third. And he just was a tremendous player. And I loved the character that he became in baseball. I was drawn to the Reggie Jacksons of the 70s, kind of the flamboyant player. But I loved Rickey Henderson as a player because he was just a character of the game. And I don't think we're ever going to see people like that anymore because the media is just too oppressive. And if somebody says anything, it's on the internet, in the papers, scattered broad and wide so quickly. But Rickey was able to be Rickey during his time of playing. And that's what made him just such a great ball player and a fun player to watch. And, he was a little bit of a prima donna, sure. But you know what? He had every right to be a prima donna, in my opinion. He was a great ball player. And, of course, holds the record for most leadoff home runs. Just on and on the records. He holds the most important record in baseball, in my opinion, which is runs scored. I mean, that's how you win games, by runs scored. And Rickey scored the most runs out of anybody ever in baseball history. And I am so thankful that I got to see Rickey Henderson play live that many times at that time, at that era, especially when I was 19 and 20 and thought I was on top of the world. I was on my own. I wasn't living at home with mom and dad anymore. I was living in the barracks. I had a meal card on the Air Force Base, but I thought I was a man and had the world by the horns at that time. And boy, we're looking back, what a fun time that was to think back 40 years ago, man. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I'm so glad I got to see Rickey Henderson play. And the reason why it's shocking a little bit is because I'm 62. Henderson would have been 66, I believe, on Christmas Day. So, yeah, he's a little bit older than I am, but not tremendously. We're kind of in a way from the same generation. And Rickey was just a great ball player and just a fun guy to listen to interviews. And, man, what a guy. But this is my take on the three guys here that passed away this year. All great players, but for me, I look at it and I say, Willie Mays was the guy from the time I was a baby up until, I just don't remember that much about Willie, but he was there. So he was the early part of my life. And then Pete Rose was the middle part, from the time I can remember baseball until really 1987. By the time I was 25, he was managing, he was a player manager for the Reds, but all through the 70s, all through the 80s, Pete Rose was a great player. And I know that he made some horrific mistakes, but I still feel he should be in the Hall of Fame. And then on this side here, we've got Rickey Henderson. And Rickey was a guy I got to see play live. And, he came, but when he was a rookie, I was already 18 years old. And by the time he retired, I was darn near 40 some odd years myself. He played for a long time, but just to see Rickey's career from basically my high school years all the way until well into my adult years. What a fun experience that was. And these three guys are no longer with us. And but really, when you think about it, just the arch of time that we see here from really 54 until in the 2000s, 50 years of greatness. And the stories they could tell truly would be the glory of their times. So thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody. Just remember, life is short. We have no guarantees, no matter how much money, no matter how much fame we have. Life is fleeting, so enjoy it for the day. And we will talk next time. Peace, everyone.